This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
It's going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
And welcome to the WWE Podcast. It is Tuesday, July 16th, 2024. Welcome to the show. We're going to kick off in just a minute with a Monday Night Raw review. A lot to talk about with that show that really started to set SummerSlam into motion. Got some programs started that I didn't think, and many fans probably didn't think they'd be interested in. And Rhea Ripley took front and center stage with Dom and how she's going to deal with that and everything else. The Wyatt Six showed up, and we're starting to get, you know what I like about the Wyatt Six? They have hocus pocus about them, like a lot of iterations of the Bray Wyatt character and the family that he had and the original Uncle Howdy storyline. A lot of that. There's some hocus pocus, but this is less reliant on that and a little bit more reliant on actual character development with these VHS tapes being delivered on a weekly basis. And, I thought it's kind of funny. How is it that the Wyatt Six send these VHS tapes on a weekly basis? Well, they sent 3 or 4, maybe more now, with the Pat McAfee show and delivering them to Michael Cole at the announce desk. And they're using VHS tapes, which we all know haven't been really used on a mass scale in 20 plus years. And yet they somehow can figure out how to penetrate secured live feeds of major podcasts and major television shows. So they have the ability to break into those feeds and create disturbances, yet they're still using VHS. So which one are they? Are they that technologically inept, or are they just choosing to use VHS tapes to up the creepiness factor? I'm not sure. Again, not a complaint by me, more of just kind of a bit of a contrast of their ability of technology. So, but nonetheless, I really enjoyed the Eric Rowan tape this week. I thought it really, for the first time in his career, made me care about his career. And it's kind of sad that it took the death of 2 friends to make me feel that way. But if there's a silver lining in the death of Luke Harper and Bray Wyatt, well, then if it's the rise of Eric Rowan, so be it. Is he going to be front and center? No, I don't think so. But at least you understand his pain. You saw some real, I think, emotion that he tapped into where the lines of reality and fantasy have blurred here, which is always usually a recipe for compelling television when you're not sure what's reality, where reality ends and fantasy begins. And Eric Rowan, or just Rowan now as he's known, is in a place where you actually can empathize with him. We've all gone through loss. Varying degrees of loss, but loss nonetheless. And you can empathize with that. And we also all, to some degree, also had a connection with Wyatt and Luke Harper. So we feel a loss, although not as deep, I'm sure, as he felt or their families felt. So it's a character that in grief we have hopefully now connected with. And we'll see where that takes him. Now, hopefully he doesn't bring back and resurrect the mechanical spider. You guys remember that? Remember that thing he was carrying around when he was part of the Bludgeon Brothers? And he had the sledgehammer with them. And I think he was carrying around a container that had a cloth over it for weeks. Remember that? And ended up being a spider that was mechanical. So hopefully we don't go back to that. Or the moment when he lost in 6 seconds to The Rock at WrestleMania 15 years ago, or maybe not long ago, but yeah. So the days of Harper being squashed, forgotten, and really a laughable character are behind us, we hope. As they really start to develop each character individually, if that's the case, I'm on board. Because I think this group does need an identity beyond just the kind of, I guess, picking up where Bray Wyatt left off, or a Bray Wyatt tribute group. They can be birthed out of that, but I think that they recognize that they can't live off of that's not a sustainable strategy, and they need to each create their own identities, even if the foundation is laid with Bray Wyatt's vision. That's fine. But I think that whether on purpose or not, they are on a path to success with the development of Rowan, Uncle Howdy, which we all know is Bo Dallas. There's no doubt about that. So it's fun. And Chad Gable being involved, and we'll get to that segment in a little bit as well. But welcome to the WWE Podcast, everybody. If you want to go ad-free, you can do that on Spotify. Yes, you can do that on Spotify because it's connected to Patreon. So there's a option on Spotify, I believe, to go ad-free, which you can also go to patreon.com/WWE podcast for as little as $1. You can get yourself ad-free. Or you can go to Apple and get yourself ad-free there as well. Really anywhere. The major podcast platforms, anywhere, you can have an ad-free option. All right. So let's kick off Monday Night Raw with the return of Rhea Ripley, the proper return of Rhea Ripley, who last week got cut off because they didn't time the ending of the show correctly, which led them to rush the ending of confronting Dom and her walking out on Dom and chasing Liv out of the arena. So Rhea Ripley returns and says it's been exactly 3 months since she was in the ring, and it was due to Liv Morgan. Ripley said Morgan is running around with something that belongs to her, and she's talking about the championship and that she never lost it, and that she invited Liv out to the ring so she could rip her apart. Dom comes out instead. He's carrying a black rose. The crowd booed him as he tried to speak, as per usual, which is, again, I'm kind of over that. I feel like it's just kind of the cool thing to do, but at the same time, we're hindering his development because we're not allowing him to talk. So there's that. But we got then Liv, who appeared on the big screen and apologized for her voice. She said, it's been a long weekend in Mexico, but she's always been known as quite the screamer. Yeah, here we go, guys. If you can see the Netflix version of Raw on the horizon, here's a bit of a taste of it for you as we dive likely into more dicey storylines. This is one that I'm sure if it was on Netflix would be a little bit even more fleshed out. But that's fine. It's a nice line, and Morgan said she originally tried to take Dom to hurt Rhea Ripley, but then she ended up really falling for him. And that she also said that Mommy might be home, but Liv is finally on top. Dom told Ripley that it's not what it looks like. Ripley continued to ignore him and said that Morgan's afraid to face her because she knows it will end her revenge tour. Ripley challenged Morgan to face her for the Women's World Championship at SummerSlam. And Morgan agreed and said, I'll see you at SummerSlam and hope to see Daddy Dom there too. Rhea Ripley then said that she's going to end not just her revenge tour, not just her title reign, but her career. Dom continued to try to make amends with Rhea. That didn't work. And it was a good segment. I mean, it's what last week kind of needed to be, which now we got. And Rhea Ripley is officially a babyface. Damian Priest is officially a babyface. We'll get to him in a few minutes too. And they're both babyfaces in a heel group. And I think they are both on a path for splitsville from the Judgment Day, but we'll talk about that also in a few minutes. So Damian Priest showed up, and he was entertaining last night. He was getting a kick out of Dom facing the consequences of his actions for messing around and just kind of enjoying Liv Morgan's attention while Rhea was gone. And Rhea continued to reject the advances and apologies of Dom throughout the night, slammed the door in his face, and Priest showed up and smirked and asked Dom if everything was good, and it was good. So they came back into the ring where Sheamus looked into the camera, and so Sheamus took on Bronson Reed and beat Bronson Reed in 8 minutes and 30 seconds. So, by the way, Sheamus has new music. People are losing their minds over it. It trended on Twitter. I mean, I don't know how I really feel about it. I feel like it's okay. I guess I got to give it a little more time. I had no issues with Sheamus's original music that they went back to. Not sure what the idea is here, but the match here was fine. It ended with Reed going for a top rope moonsault that Sheamus avoided. Sheamus then hit Reed with a knee and then got the victory. So instead of the brogue kick, it was a knee to the head, which shouldn't that also be a finish that we see all the time? It's one of those common moves that actually ended a match that people are surprised, and I was too, but also, should we really be? A knee to the head from a 240-pound guy? Yeah, that's a knockout shot. But we've all been conditioned that, super kicks are not knockout shots. They're just transition moves, all that. So Sheamus turned his back, though. Pete Dunne entered the ring and hit Sheamus from behind. Dunne then went to ringside, and Reed hit Sheamus with a tsunami. So Pete Dunne is now a heel, and it might tell you that also Reed is not done with Sheamus. An okay mid-card program. Sheamus is a beloved guy, a guy with a lot of respect in the business. Reed is an up-and-comer that they continue to kind of not know what to really do with, but I think it's fine for now. And the Pete Dunne turn, it's something interesting with Dunne's character that I think needed something to do. So that's also a positive. So it's kind of win-win-win all the way around here. Dominic told Rhea Ripley backstage she'd been trying to reach her all weekend and wanted her to hear him out. And Dom said, or Rhea was asking, what about the last 3 months? Implying that he didn't even try to reach her the last 3 months. Carlito continues to play his comedy role very well. Really, the only one heel here is kind of Finn Balor. Well, Finn Balor and Dom. It's kind of it. Carlito's not really a heel. He's entertaining. Priest is pretty fully turned at this point to a babyface. Rhea Ripley has been babyface for quite some time. Like, is the Judgment Day primarily a babyface group? You can make the argument as it currently stands. All right, so Sami Zayn was backstage and he approached Dragunov, and he is telling him that he's the reason that Dragunov's getting the Intercontinental title match tonight, and that he believes that Dragunov is a special talent and reminds him of himself at times. That's a little bit narcissistic, but that's neither here nor there. Zayn said Dragunov fights like his life depends on it, and that's the type of person he wants to face and who deserves a shot at the title. So wait a minute, Zayn. You're the one that decides as a babyface who gets a shot at the title? You're the one that qualifies someone based on your assessment of their talent? Kind of weird. Kind of heelish, actually. And it's concealed because it's Sami Zayn, but I don't know. When you really dig into what those words mean, it's a bit narcissistic. So, also, I think Cole made a mistake at the beginning of Raw when he saw, I think it was Sami Zayn arriving to the arena, when they kind of do that weekly thing where they choose who they're showing walking into the building, which is cool. And Cole still, and I don't know if it was by accident, and I don't know if he even got corrected for this, or they don't care, but he referred to Sami Zayn as, quote, the underdog from the underground. is here, which I think is not a good idea to reference Sami Zayn as anymore, because as we remember from last week or the week before, we heard Sami Zayn say he's no longer the underdog. He's earned a level of respect. He should not be considered the underdog anymore. And that it seemed like they were trying to reframe who Sami Zayn is in the minds of fans, or at least begin that process. And you can't do that if you have the announcer referring to Sami as the underdog from the underground that he has been referred to since he was in NXT. I mean, you got to pick a lane. I don't want to refer to and look at Sami as the underdog every single time, and we have. That's the way we've been conditioned. And I want to look at him as a guy that actually is a favored to win. And I don't know. So I'm not losing my mind over it. It's not so much a complaint as just kind of like, hey guys, WWE, listen, you got to pick a path with Sami. If you want people to stop thinking about him as an underdog, well, you can't have your lead announcer for Raw continue to refer to him as an underdog. So just to kind of like correct course here, which one? Anyway, I'm sure no one really even mentioned that or thought about it, but it's just something because I liked the change they were trying to make last week with Sami, and this week it seemed like they were taking a step back. All right. So Gunther's video package aired, which always is really, I mean, it's just really good. Gunther is just, my God, the guy's he's got everything rolling. Gunther is the full package. His promos have improved, continue to improve. We'll get to his promo there with Priest in a moment as well. But the video package is so well done. Longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time. He's still relatively young. He's got a great look. In ring, he's not a guy that flips, flops, flies, does super kicks. He is a professional wrestler. He's not worried about gymnastics. You know what he's worried about? You not seeing through his work and kicking ass. And respect. Respect. That is what his entire character has been built on, and yet he's a heel. So, all right. We then had, let's see here. Gunther said he came to SmackDown with the vision of taking the Intercontinental Championship, and he won it with ease. And this is some of the stuff from the video package. But all right. We then had Sonya Deville versus Zelina Vega, and boy, yikes. 1 minute here with Sonya Deville beating Zelina Vega. Zelina Vega is back to her losing ways after confronting Liv Morgan, and maybe you thought that could turn into something. She had some good one-liners for Liv Morgan last week and the week before, and it's just kind of back to that role of enhancement talent, and I don't know if it's her. I don't know what it is. You know, Zelina's been there for a long enough time that you could make the argument she needs to have a women's title run here. Maybe it's her size. She is a very small woman, comparatively, and maybe not. I guess she's a small woman, just in like average outside of WWE. When you put her inside the ring with women athletes, she looks even smaller. And look, that's not a slight on her, but maybe it is visually from WWE management standpoint that they don't want someone so small being believed to win a championship. Now they have Liv Morgan, but Liv Morgan is actually, I think, slightly bigger than Zelina. So I guess I'm trying to grasp at straws to figure out why they've never decided to make Zelina Vega at the point where she could have a title run. I know she came close in her home country last year, and that was a fun moment. The crowd was crazy. Was it Backlash? I think they went to Puerto Rico, but that's the closest she came. And so I don't know, maybe the timing's never been right. They've always had someone on the back burner that they wanted to push before her. I can't quite figure it out, but Zelina Vega has been proven that she can talk. She's a proven commodity. She's almost never hurt, by the way, at least unless she hides it. And she can wrestle. Is she an all-time great in the ring? Probably not, but she doesn't need to have a women's title reign. I've just been advocating for her for years. Years. I think you could get a decent run out of her. Put the belt on her and see what happens. Now, if they create the women's equivalent of Intercontinental and U.S. title, I think she's a perfect candidate for that. You guys know that I'm not an advocate of creating those belts for several reasons, none of which have anything to do with the patriarchy and me trying to oppress women, although I'm sure there are some of you out there that think that. But if you listen to my show, and I'm not going to go through all the reasons, I'm actually an advocate for pushing women forward, and I don't think adding belts is a way to do that. I think that's a superficial check the box. Look at what we did with equality of the men and women, yet doesn't really do anything for the division. In fact, I think it actually hurts it at this moment because the divisions are not set up and are not, I don't think that they have a good platform yet to introduce those belts. So we'll see if they actually do, but she's a perfect candidate for that, probably based on how they've booked her. All right. We've got Jey Uso, who had a really great line. I mean, he's pursuing Rhea Ripley because he's heard she's single and he's trying to, get after her, which is really funny. And Dom is now trying to fight for her honor, which is great. This dynamic is a lot of fun. Damian Priest is a really bad friend here. Not giving Dom the heads up about Rhea last week. And then Jey Uso trying to pursue Rhea and not really helping the situation. It's great. This is just all a lot of fun. A lot of fun. All right. So then we get the confrontation that I really enjoyed. Priest and Gunther. This confrontation continues to make the case, if you're looking for one, that Priest could retain at SummerSlam. And that there may not be a third element here. There may not be a Seth Rollins to interfere. In fact, the more I look at what Seth Rollins could do, I know many have pointed to him possibly being a special referee for that match. What about him interfering in the Drew Punk matchup? That's a possibility. It's weird that Seth doesn't have a path right now. He's floating out there with 2 weeks to go until SummerSlam, which is just really kind of unthinkable. He just returned, a month ago, and now they don't have anything for him for SummerSlam, at least as it stands right now, as an official match. There's no official match outside of throwing him into the world title match to make it a triple threat, which I thought they would do. But he was involved not in that, but in the Drew Punk storyline. And we'll talk about that again when we get to it. But anyway, I've been really enjoying Priest's run more than I thought I would. I admittedly was thinking he was a transitional champion, as we all did. And he continued to win. Yes, he was a beneficiary of just circumstance a lot of the time to retain. And he did it without the help of Judgment Day. In fact, in spite of them most of the time. And he continues to feel more like a champion. I'm a big advocate, and many of you, I believe, are too, of the guy makes the championship. But there are exceptions to every rule. And in this case, it feels like the belt is helping make Damian, because the focus is on him as champion. And he continues to impress. He's had a couple botches in a couple big matches. Yes. But the thing is, most of his matches have been really good. Outside of the botches that he nearly snapped his leg in, and then he botched the finish of the match at Money in the Bank, sure. But most of us aren't thinking about that. Most of us are just seeing, how does he make me feel as champion? Does he feel like a champion? And I think he does. And I have enjoyed it. He talks like a champion. He's, by the way, he's officially a babyface, guys. As I said earlier, it's done. It's over. He's a babyface. And this promo with Gunther pretty much solidified that. as Gunther said he made an honest assessment of Priest while he was away, and he said, quote, "You're not living up to it. Your reign has been nothing." And Gunther said he wanted to lift the weight off of Priest's shoulders, unburden him, as they say. And Gunther told Priest he could save him the embarrassment and told him just hand the title to him now. Priest said that while Gunther had everything handed to him in Europe, he was fighting for his life on the street. And Priest said if Gunther is just around for the paycheck and it's not his dream, he's not needed here. So I guess he's now fighting for the honor of the sport of professional wrestling. So there you go. There's a babyface move right there, among many others that were hinted at. Priest said that he's earned his title and Gunther is the last person who will take it from him. Gunther said he's recognized Priest's hardship and won't question his street credibility, but being on the streets is a choice. Gunther told Priest not to blame him, that his parents didn't provide him with a good life, whereas his parents gave him everything. So here you go. There's a perfect line of, I had to scrap and claw for everything, or you did, while I was handed everything. I mean, does it get more black and white for who is supposed to be the good and bad guy here? And you know what? I appreciate this from WWE, that they didn't leave much ambiguity for this matchup, where many of us, including myself, didn't have a ton of interest in this match because it's heel-heel. Not a great matchup formula for a main event of SummerSlam, much less even a main event of Raw. It's usually not a great formula because the fans go, nah, I don't care. Now they've kind of told you where they want you to go, and I'm willing to follow. You know, I'm not going to rebel just to rebel. I'm willing to see this through. Priest isn't pandering. Priest is believable. And he carries himself more and more every day like a champion. And now I'm sure, now that I believe he could retain, they're going to pull the rug out and finally just transfer the belt here. And they could. But I'll save my predictions again for SummerSlam in a couple weeks for then, because I still don't have a solid idea yet on what they're going to do. But I will say there is a discussion to be had, a serious one, that Priest could retain if it's one-on-one. And it remains one-on-one. We'll see. Gunther said that while Priest was fighting for his life, WWE officials were calling and begging him to sign a contract. And Gunther called Priest street trash. That was great. Oh, man. Saying that being on the streets is a choice and then calling Priest street trash. Awesome. I loved it. I think that struck a nerve with some people because we haven't heard those phrases used in pro wrestling in a long time. And I'm sure it struck a chord with some people with the real life things that are going on in the world right now. I'm sure some people felt it was insensitive, but that's the idea. That's the idea. Make some people uncomfortable. You heard the oohs and ahs when Gunther said those things. It was the kind of the money headline. You know, if you were going to take a quote out of that, it would be from one of those things, you know, that Gunther said about street trash. So a really good segment. Now, this, let's see here. Priest said it's because Gunther has no heart and doesn't know what it's like to fight for everything he has. Priest said he would remain champion at SummerSlam and Gunther would need to fight him or fight from the bottom for the first time in his life because he will have absolutely nothing. Really good. I mean, I think this drew the battle lines for both men, where you didn't know really where they stood, who's going to play the babyface and heel. That's all. That's been answered, and we needed to have that answered. This match made us care more about the title match at SummerSlam than before this happened. This was a very effective, perfectly executed segment that didn't need any physicality. It didn't need a brawl. I don't even know if I'd want a brawl between the two yet, but it was very good. All right, then we get Damian Priest versus Braun Strowman, and Priest ended up winning this match in 8 minutes, and won it with a kind of a laughable chokeslam on Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman is so much bigger than Damian Priest. I mean, not by an incredible amount, but enough where you look at it and go, yes, sorry, he's not Kane or The Undertaker. He's not going to one-arm chokeslam this dude. I mean, like, I'm not trying to crap on it, but it maybe Priest could have beaten Strowman in a different way other than with his own, like that finish for Priest. They probably could have come up with something else for Strowman here because it was a little bit laughable, but I understand the point of it. You have Priest in a major title match coming up. You want him to look as strong as possible going up against Gunther. So I get why Priest won. Just how he won was kind of, again, eye-rolling. Match was okay. Braun Strowman, you talk about character development. It's a broken record when it comes to that. They need to do something with Strowman, although maybe they don't care. They just look at him and go, this is his lot in WWE. All they've got with him is his size. That's it. The dude has no character other than his... I mean, he just doesn't. Explain to me who and what Braun Strowman is again. He's the one that picked a fight voluntarily for weeks with Judgment Day and then bullied them around and then said he's the one defending the innocent people from the bullies. I mean, you talk about hypocrisy. And then... again, the only thing he's got is his size. I mean, even his shirt pretty much says that. One big SOB. Yeah, that's pretty much all you got. Like, there's not much else. There's just not. And I understand that there's a place in wrestling for that. Not every character needs to be deep. Not every character needs to have levels to their identity and have a long storied history. No. There are... and is still a place for characters like Braun Strowman. But they're not the ones who will be remembered in infamy in WWE, right? In pro wrestling, they're not the ones that make you feel, if that makes sense. But strong victory for Priest, as laughable as it was. Gunther then came out, stood on the apron. Priest invited him into the ring. Gunther then chopped Priest, though, and then Priest fired back with a forearm, and Priest went to town here on Gunther, put some boots to him as Gunther left the ring, was clotheslined over it. And again, I wasn't looking for a brawl, as I said a minute ago, between Priest and Gunther, but we got one anyway. It was brief. And now that seal has been broken, I would imagine that there's going to be physicality between these two for the next 2 weeks leading into SummerSlam. The promo did its thing. It achieved its goal, and I guess that they felt now it's time to move into brawling and physicality. So, all right. Let's see. We got to Chad Gable, who thought the Alpha Academy was talking about him, and they weren't. Poor Chad. Can't catch a break. We're still waiting for Chad to find his own clique here with the Creed brothers, make it official. But now we have Otis and Maxine and Tozawa teaming up with Xavier because Kofi's hurt. I don't know why they're deciding to team up with Xavier, but they are. And then we got Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark versus Kaden Carter and Katana Chance. And quick match because Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark won. The women's matches, if they're not involved with the championship, and there are a few of those that are actually out there, they might as well be on WWE Speed, which every match is under 3 minutes. I mean, they're essentially taking this WWE Speed format for any women's match that has nothing to do with the championship. Because every one of these matches just checks a box. That, look, we had a women's tag team match. Oh, look, we had a women's singles match. That was a minute. Oh, this one's under 2 minutes. I mean, it's just embarrassing. This is what I'm talking about. This is one of the main reasons why more championships for the women is not a good thing, because they don't even have a division that yearns for it yet. I know that if you ask the women who are involved and who are in WWE, they'd probably say it's a good idea, which allows more opportunity for more women, but all the typical platitudes. But in execution, it's going to be a bad idea if they continue to show showcase the women the way they do now. And I see no reason why they wouldn't change it. I don't feel like they're going to make any major changes to the airtime for the women. It's just that every single match that the women have, if they put these championships into place, these new ones, every single match, all the time, everywhere, will be about a championship. You'll never see any real personal feuds. There may be personal elements to the title matches and people bickering about who should be the number one contender for the women's Intercontinental title, the women's U.S. title, all that. Like, if this happens. But you're never going to see those programs that stand on their own without a title that sometimes are better than championship matches. It's about ego, pride, revenge, instead of about winning a championship, which is very important. Championships are, it's one of the pillars of professional wrestling. You got to have championships. But sometimes those personal feuds supersede those championship matches and supersede the need to have a title. And you're going to miss that with the women if you put these championships into place. That's just one of the problems. So, okay. We then had Dom interrupt. Let's see, or rather, I'm reading some of the results of Raw that I'm trying to figure out where this is in Raw. Rhea asked Dom if he was a coward because he was going to cancel his match with Jey, but then he said he had a match with Jey, and she was asked why he's picking a fight. Then he said he's going to cancel it, and then she called him a coward, so he can't win. It was some nice, funny, little back and forth there, and Carlito told Dom not cool. I mean, Carlito's just a nice kind of unsung hero of Judgment Day right now. And then we get Drew McIntyre in the ring, introduced Drew, comes out, and told Drew that, look, you want the match with Punk, they want the match with Punk, I'll give you the match with Punk. All you have to do is apologize to the two referees. And he wouldn't do it. He didn't do it. He, as badly as he wanted the match with Punk, he didn't. And he said that, let's see, I'm trying to get to the actual quote here. He said no. He said, why would I apologize to you two after everything the referees have done to screw me around here? He yelled at Pierce, said the Pierce deserved the elbow he hit on him, and said that he should be on his hands and knees apologizing to him. McIntyre took issue with Seth, thinking he could cut in line and get a match. And Pierce then said that you're still suspended. And McIntyre, I thought he was going to hit Pierce, but he didn't. The referees tried to get in the middle of both men, but McIntyre shoved both of them down. So instead of apologizing, he shoves them both down, which is hilarious. Seth Rollins comes out and starts battling McIntyre. Goes for a stomp, misses, but security arrived at ringside, urged McIntyre to leave. And he shoved the security guards to the side before swiping. He actually hit a fan sign, which was, you don't see that very often. And then he stormed to the back, and it was great. I mean, McIntyre continues to just impress, and he maintained his dignity, his pride, his ego, as we just talked about, in the effort to get Punk in a match. He still felt that not hurting his own ego by apologizing to the referees was more important than the match with Punk. That tells you all you need to know about Drew McIntyre's personality right now, which is just brilliant. This is so much fun. The whole segment was well done, from Pierce to the referees to the star of the show, Drew McIntyre. We all know that he will eventually get cleared off his suspension. Punk will get cleared from his being medically ready. I'm sure next week we'll see Punk, but McIntyre won't be there. Or maybe if he is, he'll be escorted out again by security. He might get some brawl. You know what I think the next time is with these two? It's the pull apart brawl that we've seen so many times. There's only 2 weeks left of television. It's the pull apart brawl that I'm sure we will see back and forth and back. Drew jumps on Punk. Punk jumps on Drew. They pull each other apart. And it builds to their match at SummerSlam. What I will say, though, is, and I mentioned this on Sunday with the weekend review, with a rivalry this heated, you cannot have this match just be any match. You cannot have this match just be a regular wrestling match. Even though it's the first time they're meeting, you can't do it. The match, this has been building for months. And it can't just be a regular wrestling match. It's typical that it is, and then it builds to something more. But in this case, it's already at a boiling point. So, all right. Let's see. So, we then had the whole Rowan tape, which was fun. The Jey Uso versus Dominick match. Jey Uso ends up... he beat Dominick Mysterio in 9 minutes. Rhea Ripley comes out, which caused Morgan to make her exit, who was at ringside, through the crowd. Morgan ran up the steps to escape Ripley while Dom told Dom to finish the match. Dom returned to the ring and ate a spear and an Uso splash before taking the victory. And after the match, Jey made a hand sign phone suggesting that he wanted Ripley to call him. It's so much fun. It's fun. I didn't expect Jey to be pursuing Ripley, but I like it. This whole dynamic is just, everything's clicking right now. All right. Chad Gable then stood in the ring, and he said that in another display of seemingly endless intellect, he will solve what will go down as the greatest mystery in WWE history. And he said the true identity of Uncle Howdy is Bo Dallas, which is really funny. I mean, we've known that since Bray Wyatt was alive and Uncle Howdy first showed up. People have been speculating it was Bo Dallas. So it's hilarious. I don't mean that in a condescending way. It's obviously they know what they're doing. They know that we know that, you know what I mean? Like, of course. But that's the kind of joke here, is that Chad Gable's character believes he's so much higher intellect than the rest of us are, that there needed to be some kind of crack in the case, that someone needed to solve the puzzle of who the Uncle Howdy person was, and it was just funny. So, Bo Dallas came out and in non-wrestling attire, and he was suddenly hit from behind by Julius Creed. Brutus Creed came out, helped beat down Bo Dallas, and eventually drove him back first into the ring post before rolling him inside the ring. And they both raised their arms, and Dallas started laughing as he got on all fours. Gable kicked Dallas in the gut, and the Creeds held Dallas while Gable was hitting it with elbow strikes. And Dallas continued to laugh even after Gable punched him in the face. And Gable told the Creeds to do what he showed them, and Brutus hoisted up Dallas, and Julius hit him with the knee strike and continued to laugh. Gable put Dallas down with a German suplex and then posed with the Creeds while the fans were booing, and Dallas laughed again while lying in the corner. And Gable grabbed Dallas by the ear and asked him what was so funny. And there you are, Dallas said, which with a smile. He looks a lot like Bray, doesn't he? There's some mannerisms that are just uncanny. The Wyatt 6 lighting wind down happened, and we had the Lantern and the others dressed in Firefly Funhouse character outfits followed him, and Gable and the Creeds left, and the Wyatt 6 joined Dallas in the ring, and Dallas looked down at the Lantern and then into the camera and laughed while the others posed, and the crowd was cheering. So this is the beginning angle here of the Creed brothers and Chad, who are finally united. Again, earlier in the show, you were thinking, and I was thinking, as I said, that when are they going to finally do this? Well, we got our answer. The end of Raw here, we finally got our answer, and it looks like that they could be and are feuding with the Wyatt 6, where Otis and Maxine and Tozawa fit into this? I don't know yet. I guess for now they're too busy helping Xavier. All right, so a babyface group here. The Wyatt Six are officially babyface. I guess that's where we're going. And imagine them feuding with the Bloodline, by the way. It's possible. I don't think it's imminent, but possible. Okay, Sami Zayn versus Dragunov for the Intercontinental title. This match was 12 minutes, and it ended in a no contest because, you got it, Braun Breaker. So Zayn hit the haluva kick and tried to roll Dragunov back inside the ring. Breaker walked out to no entrance music, which is probably the best music he's had in since his call up to the main roster. And Breaker got a running start, went for a spear. Zayn avoided it, and Dragunov he hit the bump on his knees rather than on his back, which was weird. And then Zayn fought Breaker at ringside, slammed his head on the broadcast table before rolling him inside the ring, and then Breaker suplexed Zayn and speared him. So Breaker stood tall to end the show. He did not keep his promise, as expected from earlier in the night when he told Pierce that he'll see himself out rather than deal with security. So Breaker continues to be a focal point. And again, the no entrance music is probably the best bet for Breaker. I think that is a clue that they are not impressed with the music either. The fans are not responding to it, and it needs to be changed. Breaker continues to ascend nicely. I don't think he's where they want him to be yet, but he's still relatively new to the main roster and new to a lot of fans. A lot of fans, the majority, by the numbers you can look, don't watch NXT. They just don't. And you know what? In the spirit of, and I'm going to read one email, okay? I got to pick it up here. I got to get it. I normally don't do any emails because the Friday show is for the emails. So let me, this guy must be a super fan. It's from somebody, and it's not a patron. Obviously, you'll hear what the context of the show here, email. So this guy from somebody named Levi, and Levi says, the whole knowing a wrestler before they become a huge name has to do with some people like yourself only being fans when someone just sent you a message a few weeks ago asking you if you thought Joe Hendry would show up at the PLE and you were laughing about him, and they also mentioned Gallus, and you said, I have no clue who any of these guys are. You should probably go watch some NXT to know who's coming up. All right, well, besides that being a extremely long run-on sentence unnecessarily, okay. I don't watch NXT. Most fans don't watch NXT. I think it's something about 60 or 70% of those that watch Raw and SmackDown don't watch NXT. Okay? And I think a lot of it is just because most people are overwhelmed with the amount of content that WWE has to produce. It's kind of an embarrassment of riches. I have been very vocal. I don't watch NXT. Not that I think it's not worth my time or that it's beneath me. I just simply don't have the time. Okay. Why do you think I have a host other than me do the NXT show? Because I don't have the time. All right. That's it. I simply don't. And, Joe Hendry. Yeah. I mean, I had no clue who he was. Here's my question. Why do I need to know who someone is before they get to the main roster? Why do I need to know that? Is it so that is it some kind of, I don't know, do I receive some kind of penalty if I don't know who the person is? Am I not allowed to have an opinion on someone who comes up to the main roster that I haven't seen before? Is that it? Or is it simply that my opinions just you disagree with? Maybe that's probably what it is. But certainly, I guess you'll be talking to the majority of WWE fans that don't know who, or at least not on any kind of deep level, know who some of these call-ups are. or people that come from outside WWE. A lot of fans don't know who they are until they get to WWE. Okay? Not everyone. There's definitely a significant portion of fans who watch everything all the time with every show, with every promotion. That's not me. Okay? That's not me. And I will continue to probably not watch NXT. Not because it's not worth my time. It's because I don't have the time. Okay? That's what it is. So, yeah, Joe Hendry and Gallus. I don't know who the hell's Gallus. Did you mean Dallas or Gallus? Probably Gallus. I have no clue who they are. And if you expect me to know who they are, you're going to be sorely disappointed. Okay? Sorely. And that's all. I think I'll end there. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for listening. I will get back to you on Friday. Friday will be my mailbag show, so continue to send those emails and voicemails and friendly emails. But also go to Patreon if you want to get an ad-free experience. You can go to Spotify and get an ad-free experience, or Apple Podcasts and get an ad-free experience. All of them have ad-free buttons you should be able to push and get yourself out of those ads that you hear every 10 minutes, right? Or sometimes it's every 8, 9, 10 minutes. But nonetheless, join us if you want to support us. Hit us up on Twitter or X at wrestling_audio, or just search the WWE podcast on Twitter. We are right there. And don't forget to tune into tomorrow will be the NXT review. And then from there will be, of course, we've got an episode of Wrestle Magic coming up for you, a bit of an abbreviated one, but that's coming in the next couple of days as well. And then SmackDown review, and we're back to the weekend. So a lot of wrestling coming your way in the next week. So stay tuned and join us on Patreon, because there's also a really awesome Discord server that you can join and chat with other fans of not just the show, but more importantly, pro wrestling. All right, everybody, thanks for joining us. Take care, and I'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.